Hi, welcome to the channel Hecate's Hearth. Today's reading is going to be taking a look at what spiritual practices that would benefit you the most right now. So we've got 3 different bottles of cleansing water. Pile number 1 is the white sage cleansing water. Pile number 2 is the spiritual shield. Pile number 3 is sacred waters. Oh, and I just realized how dirty my nails are is messing with plant stuff. Whatever, I'm just going to proceed with the reading with dirt under my nails. Okay, so go ahead and pick one of the 3 piles. And once you've chosen your pile, go ahead and find the timestamp down below, and that will take you to your reading. Okay, pile number 1, you chose the white sage. Okay, tuning into pile number 1. Hail Hecate, I pray on behalf of pile number 1. What do they need to know in regards to what spiritual practices they need right now? What spiritual practices does pile number 1 need right now, or would be most beneficial at this time for pile number 1? Speak through me clearly by your power, hail and blessed be. Okay, so we've got the white sage. I kind of want to put some of this on. Okay, so it might be like using purification with herbs, so smudging. Maybe you need to work with white sage. Oops. What did I just drop? Okay, so pile number 1. What spiritual practice would be most beneficial for you right now? Tuning in to pile number 1. What spiritual practice would be most beneficial for you right now? And I just saw the key in the karmic past, so doing shadow work, working with Hecate, maybe even doing past life work. Okay, working through heavy karma, so doing heavy purification, doing rituals that help clear away heavy things, release. A lot of rituals around releasing and letting go. So it could be yogic rituals, it could be purification rituals, ritual baths, cleansing, cutting out things. Lucky and friendship. Okay, so bringing in good luck and good connections into your life. Can that be why the need to release as well, to cleanse and to purify, so that you can bring in the good things, the positive? Release. Okay, so yeah, you're releasing and letting go and doing purification, or that would be most beneficial to you to do rituals that involve releasing. You may want to do cord cutting ritual. Okay, rituals around purification, cord cutting, releasing or letting go of karmic patterns. You can do that through meditation and yoga, and there's also specific rituals of pure protection as well. Okay, so you may be already naturally spiritually gifted and empathetic, and there's the need because of that to do a lot of purification and protection. Okay, that's all I'm going to take from this deck. Let's go ahead and get into the tea leaf. What spiritual practices would most benefit pile number 1 at this time? What spiritual practices would most benefit pile number 1 at this time? spiritual practices would most benefit pile number 1 at this time? An exciting event. We'll put that with the lucky and a friendship. So like having fun. Okay. So it kind of feels like a balance here of the need to release, the need to purify, and to protect your energy, balancing that with the right people, finding the right people. This is also like using discernment to find the right people. So balancing it with fun, going out and having fun, and not being too serious about life. Oh, it might even be too like gong, using gong or sound healing. I should just ignore the word at the bottom. Using gongs, using singing bowls, bells in your practice to cleanse, to purify, to work on your chakras. You may want to try sound healing. The next reading I'm going to be doing, well, one of the next readings is going to be advice around healing. That's a reading that's going to be coming up. You can also use bells to invoke, to call spirits, to get their attention. What spiritual practices? Okay, might be wanting to use maybe prayer flags. And then this says, do not be tempted to lower your standards. That fits with what I was saying about the friendships, of using discernment and having the right people around you is very important. We have temporary problems with clouds. I know there's divination that you can do with clouds, but this also could be interpreted as getting rid of the clouds in your mind, getting clarity. So maybe working with meditation. Okay, some of you might be called to do scrying work. That may be a spiritual practice that would fit well with you. And you can scry with clouds, water, crystal balls. We have archway, new openings, possibilities, and paths opening up. And that makes me think of the key. Even though it didn't come out, I kept seeing the key. That was making me think of Hecate, or opening gateways within your mind, opening doors within the self, doing shadow work, taking a good look at yourself. Oh, victory in some endeavor. Okay, doing spiritual work that will help you overcome your shadow, overcome your demons. Some of you may need to quit bad habits. And that could also be used with cord cutting to help with that. Okay, so releasing and letting go and overcoming your dark side, or your shadows, or your inner demons. Okay, some of you might be drawn to the practice of chud, which is another way of dealing with that. You might also be called to working with Kali Ma. She is also good for having victory over our demons. She's a demon slayer. Okay, let's get into the tarot now and see what we get from the tarot. What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 1 at this time? What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 1? Oops, what do we have hiding in here? Let's see. What is this? Apple. The thing that popped in my head was do not be tempted. Oh, wait, hang on. Where did that card go? Do not be tempted to lower your standards. Or overcoming temptation. Rising above. Let's see, something about your higher nature, your transcending above. That makes me think of like meditation. Okay, what spiritual practices? Hang on, these gimbals went out. What spiritual practices practices would be most beneficial for pile number 1 at this time in their life? What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 1 at this time in their life? Whoop. 8 of Cups. So walking away from habits and people that are not in line with where you're trying to go in life, that are hindrances to your spiritual path. Walking away from things that drain your energy, people, places, or situations. Queen of Pentacles. So physical practices like yoga or just taking care of yourself, eating healthy. Something to do with threads, maybe, well, the cord cutting. That's kind of like an affirmation, cutting cords, being mindful of the cords or connections that you make with people, making sure that they're steady, they're stable. Some of you may be called to work with runes. This can make me think of Odin, but also look, he's tangled in threads. So getting yourself untangled from bad connections or habits. The need to shift your perspective around those things, seeing clearly, getting your head out of the weeds, getting yourself untangled, realizing where you're tangled or where things, what people or things in your life cause you entanglement or tie you up or hold you back in some way, and having a shift in perspective and realizing the need to free yourself from that. We have Star. Working with higher beings, working with angels, working with the water element, purification with water. Okay, some of you may be called to work with astrology, healing with water, like praying over your water. I was actually talking with a neighbor today about that, about the energy we put into the water. So being mindful of the words you speak within yourself as well, because we're made up of 70% water. And you can also work with water by putting healing energy into water. Okay, one more Page of Cups. We are learning to watch the way that you communicate, or working with the element of water, communicating with the element of water. Spending more time around natural bodies of water, ocean, lakes, rivers, streams, and connecting that way. Giving offerings, working with giving offerings. Ritual baths, cleansing baths. Okay, I think that's all I'm getting. Okay, I'm going to move on to pile number 2. Thank you so much, pile 1. Okay, pile number 2. If you chose Spiritual Shield, oh, gotta be careful. Just blew out the same flame again. Okay, you may have also been drawn to pile number 1. There may be somebody around you trying to put out your flame. Okay, which spiritual shield? Make sure that you are protecting your energy, so spiritual protection. That message also came through in pile number 1. let's go ahead. We're going to start with the Divine or the Sacred Symbols deck. Pile number 2, tapping into the energy of pile number 2, Hecate. What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 2? May I be a clear channel for these messages by your power. Hail and blessed be. Gratitude practice. Okay, working with candles, working with candle magic, working with your ancestors, or just having gratitude, having a daily gratitude practice. What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 2, working with the moon? I keep seeing the full moon as well here. Okay, some of you might need to ground if you're dealing with stormy or difficult emotions or situations. Okay, some of you may be very influenced by the moon. Working with the air element. So cleansing with smoke. What else? Mountains. What else is the air element? Meditation. That's kind of, those messages came through in pile 1 as well. What spiritual practices will be most beneficial for pile number 2? I'm getting mantras, chanting mantras, using the power of your voice and the spoken word. Learning to be comfortable with your voice or using your voice in some way. Could be singing or chanting. Guides. So speaking to your spirit guides, tapping into your spirit guides. I did say ancestors in the beginning as well. Okay, you may want to work with that using a candle. Power. Yeah, claiming your power. Learning to use your voice and learning to use your voice as a source of power. Having the courage to speak your voice. Tapping into the power of different deities, the power of your ancestors. We have earth with grounding. Okay, yeah, grounding your energy, replenishing your energy by connecting with the earth. New moon. Okay, I did say working with the moon, but that was because I was seeing full moon, but maybe new moons are extra powerful for you to tap into yourself or to connect with your own energy. It's also a good time to plant seeds, whether you do candle magic, which that I did say candle magic too, or anything, any kind of goal. It doesn't have to be candle magic, but new moon is a good time for new beginnings. We have a message. So yeah, there's some kind of messages you need to be getting, receiving, or giving, speaking messages through you. Okay, some of you might be called to start doing some type of spiritual messages or some type of divination. Again, I do think this, whoops, we need to take this out. I think that this pile, for some of you, you were drawn to also pile 1. I think it's very connected to pile 1. Whoops, hang on, I want to do the tarot last. Let me do the tea leaves. What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 2? Someone new is entering your life. Okay, so meeting new people, or again, I feel like working with new deities and working with your guides if that is something new to you, or if ancestors is something you haven't begun working with, that would be beneficial for you. Bringing some type of new energy into your life. What spiritual practice would be most beneficial for a pile number 2 at this time? Do I want to take all these? I guess we'll take them. Peace and harmony wind chimes. So yeah, things like bells. Yeah, this is kind of similar to pile 1. They got gong. Working with the air element. You know, like when it's windy out and there's a nice good wind, standing out in it and asking it to purify you, or letting it purify your house and opening the windows. Working with wind instruments, so that would be like, I don't know, like flutes and things like that. Maybe playing some type of, you know, spiritual wind instrument, like a spirit flute or some kind of something like that you could maybe give as an offering or just play for yourself for healing or even for others. Persevere and you will overcome problems. Carrying the weight of others, some kind of act of service, helping people overcome problems, helping others around you, taking a vacation physically or mentally, so actually getting more rest, or even working with dreams, keeping a dream journal. A change for the better, butterfly. Okay, transformation. Oh, look, we have a moth too, but in the moth it says messages, but these two symbols can also be transformation. Or you could be going through a transformation right now. Working with flower medicine, so like flower essences. And we have new job or career. Yes, some of you might be called to do some kind of work that's more in line to your spiritual gifts, or some of you might be called to start offering your spiritual gifts in some way. Some of you might receive a new spiritual gift. Yeah, and it may involve, like, you know, sharing your voice, your messages, or being a messenger of some kind. Yeah, we have High Priestess, so yeah, being called to be of service to other people, to help them work through their burdens or carry them, or give them guidance. Some of you might be called to do ritual. Some of you already are in this position, or do this kind of work, or do spiritual work for others. What spiritual practice would be most beneficial for pile number 2 at this time in their life? Helping people when they're going through major transitions. Or again, you might be going through a major transition in your life. And oh wait, and the need for rest and sleep, and you might be doing a lot of spiritual work in your sleep while you're dreaming. What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 2? What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 2? Whoop, whoop. The star. Yeah, that came out in pile number 1 too. Oh my God, they're jumping out. Yeah, so some of you, your guides, or some kind of either guides or deity or ancestors really want to talk to you. They want to pass the wand on to you. They want to pass some sort of gifts on to you. Did I say that with this pile, that they're maybe receiving a new gift? Yeah, I said that with the pin card. Yeah, you can kind of look at that as like a baton if it were bigger. So gift being handed down to you or handed off to you. I'm hearing exploring the realms, so astral travel, what that kind of ties in with dream work. 9 of Wands, spiritual defense and protection. Yeah, very closely connected with pile 1 because that came up also in that pile. King and Queen of Wands. So balancing your masculine and feminine nature or energies through physical means, physical activity. So going out in nature, or this could even be yoga or qigong, things that involve physical movement that work on you spiritually or energetically. Also, the food we put in our body, that's a spiritual thing, treating your body like a temple. And for some of you, I did say like you might do this for work. Your spiritual gifts might have something to do with work. You might offer them as a service. Here we go with communication again. Communication. So, being a oracle or a messenger from the divine for spiritual messages to help guide people. Should I pull any more tarot? No. Okay, I guess that's it for what time are we at? How long was that? I guess that's it for you, pile number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to number 3. Hey, pile number 3, you chose the sacred waters. Okay, so maybe working with the water element. Working with the ocean, connection with the ocean. Some of you might be called to work with Umea. Okay, let's get into the first deck of cards. Shift. Okay, shifting your energy. Oh, let me pray first. Tapping into pile number 3. Those that are choosing pile number 3, what spiritual practices would be most beneficial to them at this time? Hecate, may I be a clear channel for you to deliver these messages through. By your power, hail and blessed be. Okay, there's the key. That makes me think of Hecate. Okay, maybe you want to work with Hecate to help you go through this shift or to help shift your energy. Or you may want to do a road opener at this time because you're going through a shift, or to help shift things and to move through obstacles. New moon. Okay, well we just had a new moon. So, or just in general working with the new moon. Transformation. Okay, transforming energy, transforming your current state of mind. What spiritual practices? Protection. Okay, so learning different ways to protect your energy. What spiritual practices does pile number 3 or would be most beneficial for pile number 3 at this time? Grounded. Okay, so staying grounded, or staying grounded is your protection. And I'm thinking of like hematite and pyrite. Those are good protection stones that are also grounding. So is smoky quartz. So working with crystals to shield your energy and help you to ground. What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 3 at this time in their life? Air. Okay, I'm thinking of mountain, full moon. So connecting with spirits of earth, with mountains, with stones, crystals. We have air and full moon. Breath work. Working with breath work, pranayam. There's different forms of pranayam. It doesn't have to be pranayam. It can be other types of breathing practices to keep yourself centered and grounded, to help you to dispel Negative or anxious states of mind, full moon. Okay, working with the energy of a full moon, past lives. Okay, past life regression, or working with having more awareness of your past lives. You might have awareness of past lives coming through dreams. Can be dreaming more vividly during the full moon. Working with Egyptian religion or deities. I think that's all for that card that I want to pull. Let's pull out of the tea leaf. What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 3 at this time? What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 3 at this time? What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 3 at this time? Come on, tea leaves, give us some cards. This is the only deck that my rule is they've got to jump out. I don't know, that's just the rule I have. It's because there's so many. What? Oop. Diamond, you will be receiving or giving a precious gift. Okay, I feel like that's confirmation of working with crystals. We have you feel something is lacking in your life, perhaps love, money, or goals. Okay, so working with manifestation, working with manifesting with the full moon, working with manifesting by using your words, watching your words and thoughts, dealings or relationship with a man, getting in touch with your masculine energy or masculine qualities, so being more assertive, being more action oriented, being more oh my goodness. Okay, we'll just take the ones that flipped over. Okay, we have a wish will not be granted, danger, especially in money matters. Okay, so you may need to be more assertive to make things happen, to make your wishes come true. Time to act with Lion. So being more action oriented towards your wishes. We have great good fortune and victory in some endeavor. Okay, so bringing better fortune into your life, or doing money magic, or luck magic, or working with Fortuna. Victory in some endeavor in January. Okay, some of you might need to do some kind of freezer jar spell on somebody. Don't do that if you're not already being called to do that. Like if there's somebody who is out of control in your life and overstepping some boundaries, then they need to be stopped. Or somebody who's got a lot of volatile, angry outbursts, that can be something good for that. Victory in some endeavor. So yeah, getting you might want to work with Nike or deities that help bring you victory and success. I also mentioned Fortuna. What else? Who else does that? There might be other deities. I can't think of any other ones, but if you're drawn to them already, that's a sign that you should probably work with them, because you need help attaining your goals, but you also need to take action. You need to be more assertive. Time to act, Lion. That also, it's like Leo energy. It's fire energy. Taking the reins of life, like being proactive. We have wish will not be granted, danger, especially in money matters. Yeah, there's a need to mitigate difficulties around money, or even just things you're trying to manifest. And so, yeah, you're being called to do some kind of work with some kind of deities, or do some type of manifestation work, candle magic, could be other ways of doing things. That's the primary way I do things. What else? People do vision boards, setting goals and taking those steps towards them, taking action. Let's see. And we have the tarot. Let's get into the tarot. Let me make sure I'm still recording. Okay. What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 3? Okay, some of you need to drink more water. I saw the Ace of Cups, that's why I said that. And then I was looking at the sacred water bottle, the need to drink more water. Some of you need to cry or cleanse your emotions in that way, by letting them go, by releasing them, by crying, or by working with water. What spiritual practices would be most beneficial for pile number 3 at this time? What spiritual practices would be most beneficial at pile number 3? That one wants to come out. Okay, being more independent, being more financially independent, or just more independent as an individual, feeling more comfortable in yourself, in your skin. Stability. What else? What is the rooster? This is connected with Apollo, I think, which is another sun deity. So some of you might be called to work with Apollo. Some of you may be called to work with the energy of rooster. I think this is enough. We'll take that whole pack. Strength. Some of you need to work on, building your strength of resolve and determination. King of Swords. Okay, being objective, being rational. I just heard being serious. You maybe need to be more serious. Maybe you're not taking things seriously. Four of Swords. Meditation, rest. Okay, some of you might need physical healing, and that, I know this is about spiritual practices, but if we're not physically well, it's kind of hard to work on ourselves spiritually. Seven of Wands. Overcoming your demons or shadow aspects, having control over them, having control over impulses. I feel like this is very much about control over the self, learning self-discipline. Different practices that can help with self-discipline is fasting from anything that you really enjoy. It could be fasting from food. It could be fasting from some kind of activity that you really like, or a specific food, or just something that's going to require self-discipline, and thereby by taking time to fast from it, you are strengthening your self-discipline. That also strengthens your willpower. Knight of Wands. I'm not getting anything from the Knight of Wands. I'm drawing a blank. Let me clarify it. What is this Knight of Wands about? What spiritual practice does he represent? Moving forward. Does fit with the energy of Lion. Some of you might just need to move your body, move your energy. Okay, could even be getting energy work done, or learning energy work, or getting trained in energy work. And I'm thinking like Reiki or acupuncture, What else? We did say crystals in this pile. So crystal healing. Okay, learning how to use crystals to your benefit to work with your energy or to get energy moving and unstuck. Okay, I think a lot of you have some blocked energy or blocked chakras. One of the readings I'm doing this week is advice around healing, so you might want to check that out. Okay. I don't know if I need to clarify him anymore. I feel like I got the message that was coming through. The devil. Okay, over again. We did have this overcoming addictions, overcoming bad habits, negative thinking, thinking that holds us back, beliefs that hold us back, purifying them with fire. That brings me back to the pranayam. I was going to say it, but I didn't, but it's called Kalabhakti. That's a specific pranayam that it increases the fire. It's connected with the element of fire to purify. So it's a pranayam that purifies. Working with fire deities. I did mention Egyptian, and I was specifically thinking like Bastet, Sekhmet. I did say Apollo too, so working with fire. Shiva is another one. Kali. Okay, working with the fire to purify. You may want to purify your energy with fire. I'm thinking of like in the Hindu tradition where they have like those things. I don't know what it's called, but it's like where it has fire, like maybe you want to use Vesta powder. I used that in my house clearing yesterday. Again, readings by Judy. No, I'm not sponsored, but I'm going to recommend products from her or Art of the Root. Those are my two go-to that I really like. But she has this thing called Vesta powder. That's good for purification. What else? How else can you use fire to purify? Working with the sun energy. But yeah, mostly I think this is like inner work, inner demons, overcoming that, overcoming self-limitations or bad habits or addictions, cutting those out. Okay, that's what I have for you, pile number 3. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay blessed.